All right, welcome back, viewers. This is our episode number 65, and today, finally, we have our special guest, Dr. Vishal Gandhi, whom we have been trying to bring on this episode from long time. If you guys have been following my LinkedIn, or if you guys have been following our emailers, we have been blasting emails about him, and he is now here finally with us. First of all, Dr. Vishal Gandhi, thank you so much for making time to be on this episode. Our audience has been really going crazy with us that you have been mentioning that you are bringing him, but where is he? So that question has been arising from our audience. But we are now really happy to have you. Your introduction, we have already told our audience, we have already sent them that you are the co-founder and CEO of your company known as BIORx Ventures Advisors, and you are the chief ideator at Indian Healthcare Angels. So now moving forward, our audience, you already know the basics. First of all, Dr. Gandhi, I am, during the initial discovery call and our meeting in Noida, I was really impressed by how you relate with our young people, always young at heart and so that personality. So we want to portray that same personality today on this episode, starting with the, going back to the journey, because we didn't told our audience anything about your journey. We just gave them a bit of bits and pieces of insights, and that is where the audience has been going crazy. You know, everyone, they were like, "You are calling an angel now, so what about it, Anmol? Who is he? Where he is coming from? So who is he? I've told where he is coming from, sir. We would like to know from you."
Sure. So first of all, thank you Anmol for inviting me. I know it has taken us time to get back to you, but we were genuinely very busy,
We
and
understand.
really thanking you for keeping all the audience so much enthusiastic about today's podcast. I know it requires a lot of behind the scene efforts, so really appreciating your efforts and everybody's effort to make this happen today. So I think it started with all humble journey. A person who was very clueless, what to do even after bachelor's, but accidentally got it into biotech, did my master's in biotech. And then, of course, after master's in biotech, I got job at Dabur, and that's where I learned the nuances of starting an entrepreneurship journey. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, but I think
Sir, can you also explain a bit about entrepreneurship, because we haven't ever talked on this topic in our podcast today, and
sure. So
audience was questioning also about
absolutely. So entrepreneurship is about, when you are working for a big organization or a small organization, and you kind of, are challenged to start some small project of your own, right? And that's what is called corporate entrepreneurship. So essentially, you are the in charge of that project, and you get all the support from the corporate to be able to launch that, and that becomes a entrepreneurship journey where you don't own anything, but at the same time you own the complete product and its responsibility to launch. And I think even I wasn't familiar with this world till very recently. So today, in today's world, either you become an entrepreneur or you become entrepreneur. So as a manager, as a CEO of a company, you are no less than an entrepreneur, because you have to take responsibility of getting things delivered, right? And I
correct.
think more responsibility you take, your shift from an employee to entrepreneur happen, and gradually from entrepreneur, actually it moves to the entrepreneurship when you start something of your own with a lot of equity and with the bootstrap capital that you have earned from the entrepreneurship journey. So I think entrepreneurship journey is also very crucial, for a founder to really go through, because you learn the nuances of developing a product or a service, and then taking that service and a product to the next level. And I think you learn what works and what doesn't work. And I think, to me, entrepreneurship is like a pre MBA, and while entrepreneurship is like an MBA, where you are actually responsible for creating sustainable value for all the equity stakeholders. And majorly, the major equity stakeholder for any startup is the founder himself, right? So everything hinges around founder, and that's why, when we as angels look at investing in startups, we look at the founder, because ideas can fail, but founders cannot fail, because they have that ability of resilience, and they have that ability to pivot and pivot and pivot and get to a stage where they can still be, I would say, responsible for developing a product which actually has a market fit. And from there, the journey of, I would say, value creation starts for a founder and thereby associated investors. who kind of come in the beginning of the journey of a founder. I think this is what is something which I feel is a need of the hour. Having the training as an entrepreneur is very, very important. Entrepreneurship is about taking ownership without having actually ownership rights in the company. And I think this is what I think I would like even managers to think, that today gone are those days that you are just a manager, you are actually executor. And the way you execute things has to come from your own passion. So if you follow passion, I think you will be able to deliver. If you don't follow your passion and you chase money, I think there is hardly anything that you'll be able to sustain, because money is a byproduct of passion.
Correct.
Money is not a byproduct of your pivoting. So I think continue to chase your passion and you will start making money, because you are doing something which is meaningful. And of course that meaningful will result into translating into dollars.
And so, what you said in the last right now, that money is the byproduct. Like these days, talking about the younger generation and our favorite social media platform. So there has been there are many reels which shows you that okay, you do this and you become a billionaire. So that concept has been going on like for the last 3 or 4 years, and now many people think that if I call myself the business owner and I just get into this and I will be a billionaire. Like that is the mindset I've been seeing with the college students. Like it is all about mera business, mera paisa, like money, money, money. But people forget passion. So considering you have done, I think you have completed your three entrepreneurial journeys, right? So why not you talk a bit about what you did with Yes Bank? Because sir, people are lacking this these days. Even my mentor, I started my journey in 2017. During my college days, I was like crazily working with different companies to understand the market. And then when I went to the managerial position, then I really understand how much pressure it is. It just sounds good on paper, but actually when you execute, you have a lot of pressure, lot of responsibility. So I
Absolutely.
totally related, but these days people are not able to relate to it. Of
Yeah.
course, we have our we will come down to the audience who are actually running their businesses, but for the starters, why not we serve something to them?
Absolutely. So I think, as I said, that entrepreneurship journey is very crucial to make a successful entrepreneur journey, right? Because you can actually do an experiment on somebody else's money, right? Because you're not spending your money, but then you learn the nuances of scaling up, and it's a scaling up which is very, very important. So I think for me, Yes Bank was my first finance job, and but I was given a lot of responsibility, and I took each and every responsibility very sincerely, and I always looked at things I felt I was not cut for, but I loved doing it. And eventually, I think I followed my passion, and I could do my best in terms of establishing a franchisee for healthcare finance, because healthcare people understand finance and finance people don't understand healthcare. So I think there was a clear gap that how I can contribute to the scaling up of healthcare businesses in India. And today, if you look at, the government can't continue to spend that kind of money in healthcare. So there has to be a private healthcare, and the private healthcare has to be a ROI model oriented healthcare. Now, how do we ensure the balance of accessibility, affordability, and return on investment in private healthcare? I think it really required a very different structure, and we all have gone through that structure. But then to start with, I think establishing private hospitals, wherein people couldn't really see people can make money in hospital, from there to listing of hospitals, and then of course listing of pharma companies, listing of biotech companies. I think it became very clear that these businesses are not social businesses, but these businesses are commercial businesses, while they're solving a huge problem of society, which is towards healthcare. And I think in India, I call it, it's not healthcare, actually it's a sick care. The whole model in India is built not towards preventive healthcare, but it's built towards servicing the sick care. And this is where we are seeing how technology is enabling the shift of sick care to healthcare, and to provide healthcare to 1.4 billion people in India is nothing less than a monumental task. But I think this is where all the stakeholders are coming together, to solve this problem. And I feel that it is such an important subject to talk about, and each one of us is contributing directly and indirectly to the better healthcare ecosystem. Even you conducting this podcast is also about how to raise awareness about taking care of your own health, because
Correct.
today national, if you look at GDP is probably 2% of the entire GDP goes to healthcare. Now we can't depend upon government to provide healthcare to us, right? There are Ayushman Bharat schemes and this that, but at the end of the day, when it comes to private healthcare, that offers the superiority of services. And that's exactly when it comes to healthcare, we think about getting the best access, even if you can afford or you can't afford. And this is where the private insurance plays a very important role in
Correct.
subsidizing the healthcare. And I think even mediocre peoples, like middle class people, where you and I belong to, we always have insurance, private insurance, right? To be
Right.
able to manage ourselves better, and have access to the right healthcare facility, right doctor, so that we know that we are on the right track of working on our healthcare.
Correct, sir. Correct. I totally agree on that note. And for us, health insurance and life insurance, everything is very important. Even recently, I was reading a report in USA also, due to all the schemes that are going on for healthcare. So they are spending billions of dollars on it. Trillions, not billions, sorry, trillions. It is trillions. And now, as Trump has come in, so they are thinking how they can, bring those things to a more organized way and bring down that figures like by a trillion. So that is what they were looking. So I was hearing that podcast. I will share that with you. It is an interesting insight. So I totally agree on that. And also a question came in while you were telling me about healthcare. So you came into this field by chance after your bachelor's, right? And now you also, after doing your three entrepreneurial journeys, was your starting your business again a similar kind of instance, or you were prepared for it, like
No,
while
I
you
think
were?
it was a very good clarity of experience working with the Dabur and Baxi gave me a very good encouragement in terms of what it is to look for running a healthcare business. But then at the same time, when I joined Yes Bank, that time there was a concept of, financing healthcare, and private healthcare was a very nascent subject. Nobody knew what is the right model which will work. And that's when the corporatization of hospitals were also happening, and we led a lot of M&A, merger acquisitions activities with the private healthcare sector. So I think a lot of it was discovery, but then I think having worked with bank for 6 years, it gave very good clarity that healthcare people certainly do not really understand the financing bit. And the financing community wants to do a lot of healthcare investment, but they don't really understand what it takes to think from a lens of an investor. And that's what we felt that we would be the best bridge, and that's how the creation of BIORx happened in 2012, and it's been 12 years. We are on the journey of bridging that gap of information access of healthcare to financing community. And I think we would have done our bit, but there's much more to be done. And I would say that the initial idea that I started with and where we are today, I think there has been a lot of incremental product innovation within our own company to be able to deliver to the stakeholders, which comes to be like angel investors, to for example regulators, to policymakers, to the fund houses, family offices, venture funds, and then of course startups, and of course corporate ventures. So I think this is a whole ecosystem that has been developed in last 12 years, which did not exist earlier. And the earlier problem statement that we were thinking of working when I started BioRx was very limited, providing only merger acquisition or equity advisory services. But today, we are very, very proud to say that, there is hardly any service which is related to the growth of a organization or solving a problem for an investor in terms of, distress, to making it, I would say, making it like really work for them. I think we've been able to offer all kinds of services which can create and have created value for the startup, for the corporate, and for the investment community. I think we feel very fulfilled, but there's much more to be done from here, but not in a same shape and form the way we have carried, but in a very, very different form, which is led through the scale, which is led to the digital transformation. And I think there's a lot of learning which we had, and we hope to put that learning into digital transformation to be enabled better scale. And I think every time I think about healthcare, I always feel that I'm contributing back to the society, and that feeling of contributing back to society is so superior. It's so fulfilling, that you continually pushing yourself to innovate, to think, and make others in the team also continuously be a part of the journey, because alone how much can we achieve? Together we can achieve a lot. And I think this is the very clear passion of my team as well. They continue to, some of them have a healthcare background, some of them they do not have, but they continue to align well, so that at the end of the day we are able to satisfy our stakeholders who have trusted us with the responsibility of investing and of course growth for healthcare startups.
Now that is amazing. We can see the passion in your eyes while you speak. So, sir, when we talked, so you told me you have certain interests outside of healthcare, like Agritech, Climatetech, Edtech. So, what are those interests? And Agritech, Climatetech, Edtech, like, and then health,
Yes.
health.
So I think if you look at UN Charter, so UN talks about One Health, and One Health approach is like if you have access to the better education, access to the better agri inputs, and of course access to the clean air, I think your health is manifested better, right? And so this is how we have also gone about, looking at health not as just health but as One Health. And within that we felt that we were focusing a lot on the preventive health care and also on the sick care. But there are other softer agreement, softer things which are now in wake of the SDG goals, SDG 2030 goals, that actually are going to be the driving factors for driving businesses and agri to social impact, to clean tech, to many other sectors which did not exist earlier, but they are now part of the I would say the growth story of India. And we are seeing a lot of innovations in these sectors which perhaps did not see earlier, and I'm sure some of them are worthy backing and investing. And this is the right inflection point, I would say, for us to be able to contribute to these emerging economy and emerging startups to create digital economy in the future.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. Any climate tech startup you would like to talk about? That is something actually
Yeah, so
interesting.
I did see a lot of startups in climate tech in last 12 months, but there is one which is now trying to do retrofitting of CNG. So there are vehicles where you possibly cannot have CNG, or and they're now doing retrofitting of EV, these batteries, right? So I think it's a revolution. While there is not much clarity on the regulation, but somebody is trying to do a retrofitting in these areas to contribute to the clean energy. I think it's a good step. These are incremental step, not much disruption we have seen, but these bit incremental innovations are also going to contribute a lot in India, because India is a different ball game altogether. You can't really do disruption, even if it is small innovation. We'll get to the goal of what way we want to be. I think whole world is looking at India from a perspective of clean air. One of the things that you talk
Yeah.
to any one of your friends, if you tell them that you're in Delhi, so they the first thing is, are you okay? Are the
Yes, yes.
AQI
I
level is so
was
high?
also,
You know,
that's why I was about to take the
yeah.
conversation
So I
from
think
clean tech to
what
Delhi.
can we do? So I think for me personally speaking, like I'm in so much of fashion now. I always use Blue Smart. I feel that at least whatever little I can do, and when you finish the trip, by end of the trip, when you get a receipt, and it also tells you about how much carbon dioxide you have saved by undertaking that trip. So I think that's a very instant gratification for somebody to see that how you're contributing to the I would say to the clean environment. And it's very important, because at the end of the environment is nothing outside. Environment is actually inside, and environment and you are inseparable. And that's exactly what we have learned in Buddhism. So I'm a
Yes,
follower of Nichiren Daishin Buddhism, and we say environment is nothing but it's your reflection. So if your environment is not clean, definitely you will be sick, because that environment is actually full of pollutants, right? And so there is nothing you can isolate. And air is a very very basic, like we access to health and access to good air is something which is very crucial for our generation, and generation after us must get it right. And I think that's
correct.
the combined goal each of us should be sharing. And this is a vision that India should be able to provide a better clean air after 30 years, not really bad air, but actually better air to our next generation. So I think this is the kind of contribution that as innovators, as ecosystem enablers and investors, we should all work together. And it's a lot happening. In fact, there are good amount of sustainability startups, there are good amount of sustainability funds who are trying to solve this problem of sustainability. And if you look at most of these Indian corporates, they've been actually forced to write reports around CSR and ESG.
Yes.
To report all this is becoming very, very important. To document how your business is environmentally conscious. From a overall governance perspective, and in governance, this is really the environment is seen as the most important aspect of governance today.
Yeah, it all makes sense because even so now even I am more confident hearing your words. I recently got a 6 kilowatt solar power plant for my office.
Oh
And
wow,
at
very
least
nice. We see we all need to do a little bit of, I would say, bit at our own end, because it may
yes,
not really contribute to the larger goal, but slowly, steadily, I think we'll probably be able to sensitize everybody and be a leader. People can only follow us because we practice that.
yes, yes, yes. No, I am now more confident hearing your words. Yeah. So, sir, you are also into angel investing, right? You also invest into a lot of startups, and these days, I always talk on the podcast that 99% of the problems in this world can be solved by entrepreneurs. So now moving our conversation to on a bit of those startup sides. So how you got into this ecosystem of startups, like into angel investing specifically?
Yeah, I think to me it was more like a pandemic situation, because in 2020 till 2020 March, I don't think I was very, very keen on anything to do with angel investing. Our approach was always, facilitating, looking at things for investors, and of course giving them the right guidance. But when COVID hit, right, that time we saw so many new business models came in to be able to provide the accessible and affordable healthcare in the time when nobody could actually witness that this kind of disruption can happen, right? And so I think society demanded that each of us to work together to create
Yes,
that solution. And we saw a lot of solutions around. Somebody's preparing a ventilator, somebody's working on sanitizer, somebody's working on thermometer, somebody's working on medicines which were never made, but they were required to be made to be able to solve the problem of healthcare system at that time, right? So these were
right,
new business models, right, where people were trying to do stuff on WhatsApping, and we were trying to all help each other. So it was very difficult time for each one of us and it was so uncertain that we didn't know whether tomorrow we exist or not, right?
right.
And
It is.
how do you give back to the society? I think it was a perfect time for us to give back to the society. And this is where we kind of started Indian Healthcare Angels, and we said that why not we create a sort of a angel network which actually is going to only fund healthcare startups. The whole idea was to only look at healthcare, but it so happened that one of the first deal that we did where we invested was Edtech company, not health tech company.
Yeah,
But of course, through that we learned the nuances of angel investing, and I also got enrolled to an angel investing program. And of course, a couple of more programs from US, I did, and I got some idea that how to sort of look at investing is long term, and most of us have been engineered to think short term.
correct.
So I think short term thinking to long term thinking requires a transformation and allocation and diversification. And I think with that kind of maturity, I was able to take a call that certain part of my wealth, what I build and what I want to build in the future, must go to support startups just really solving a big problem. And if they're solving a problem, I'm sure they'll reach a scale, and thereby we will also be able to sort of get back our returns. But I think to me, investing in healthcare is more of a passion than returns. I think even for us today, I feel that any entrepreneur I meet, I must be able to help them. I feel that's a kind of connection I feel. But sometimes, we all have finite energies, and you want to see where you can maximize your outcome. And this is where, commercial alignment with startups also sometimes is important. But I really feel that there is every startup in healthcare or any startup in outside healthcare that I really feel that I can contribute and I really want to contribute. But then sometimes you have to say no, no, because of the overall commitment. As one person, how much can you do? Or as an institution, everybody of us have some other priorities to do, right?
Correct.
So I think the idea is to really support the startup, and I think startups really need that encouragement, because most of these startups, at least in the wave what we have seen between 2014 to 2022, most of them are technocrats. They've not even earned any degree in management, so they probably understand how to build a product. But building a product to scale to exit, I think it's a very different journey, and which as an investor we would like to see that they must have that, because at the end of the day we are not investing for doing philanthropy. We're investing to see the scale, and from scale to exit. And if those elements are not there, we know it's very difficult for us to teach these things to anybody, right? Because at that age, at 30, 35, you can't teach people, right? But I think the way we work, we really feel that if there are good startups, they need some kind of a mentoring from a management perspective. We are really able to sort of give them management capabilities, make them think through, and we run a 3 months accelerator program before we in fact commit any investment, to understand what their attitude is, to understand what the gaps are, and help them build that gap. Because each gap they build and each risk they see, they will be able to mitigate that, and that's how they'll unlock value for themselves, and thereby indirectly value for us. And that's how the whole model of acceleration and investment has worked for us. And we are still, I would say, we have not really taken any exits so far, but I think we are continuously looking at investing. Maybe in another 1 or 2 years, we'll start taking some exits, because as the companies mature, because for a startup to mature, it takes about 3 to 4 years, and
Correct.
so we are not really looking at any exits so far. Yeah.
So how many companies you have invested in till date, sir?
So, as in hardcore investment, probably we would have done in 15, and as an accelerator, we would have done in another 15. So, 30 plus companies we have invested. We are currently evaluating 20 more. So, by end of 2025, I think we should have 50 portfolio companies. And the idea is that we should be able to pick up, in themes in healthcare, which are contributing to the, I would say, contributing to the preventive healthcare side, right? Because preventive healthcare is a very new subject. People didn't even spend money on it, but now people realize that if you spend money on preventive health, you don't really need to spend money on sick care, right? And
Right.
so I think that awareness is there. And in wake of these accidents, right, where probably 23 years old or maybe 42 years old guy, suddenly getting a heart attack, because they never really cared about their health. They never went for any checkup, right? And everybody thinks that probably death is a phenomenon of probably 60 plus, right? But we have all seen that people going for a morning walk in the park, and suddenly the collapse happened. So I
Right.
think it's very important that all of us really strive towards better healthcare by working on our healthcare, especially preventive healthcare, and that's where we see a huge business opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because, and there is a quote: prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's so good now that earlier people couldn't recognize, but today people must relate to this line. What you said, prevention is better than cure, because if they don't cure, then definitely one is of course cure. Essentially, I would say is leading to ICU, and from ICU we all know what happens, right?
Yes,
So why to get to ICU, right?
correct. No, it is. I think you should make this your tagline. So, sir, from your experience of 50 plus startups, now talking for the people who have started their businesses and are watching this episode. So now you have experience of around 30 startups that you have invested in, so many more that you have talked with. So what are the key things that you look in a startup as an angel investor? Like you also mentioned in the initial phases of this episode that there is a huge gap. Healthcare people cannot see things from a financial lens. So from that lens, can you tell us a few factors that startup needs to make sure, or someone who wants to get into this industry to start something, to make sure what they should be, what are those key factors that an investor looks, or what they should be looking for if they are building something into this industry?
Absolutely. So let's sort of spend about 10 to 12 minutes on this.
Yes.
First and foremost is the ability of a founder to execute, right? How detailed the orientation of the goal is, right? The goal should be very clearly defined. then what level of degree of detailing the founder has actually gone through it, right? Because we as investors, we are not going to spend our energies on detailing it out, right? What the founder must spend, because founder is going to spend his all energy for next 5 years. So if the detailing is not good, right, and detailing is like as low as you, then possibly, then it's a generic problem to solve. And of course, sometimes, as I said, that founder is important, not the idea. And ideas are plenty today, right? The execution is the key, right?
Yes.
So that's what Jeff Bezos says, that
Ye-
ideas are plenty, but execution is rarity. So I think
Everyone has ideas, but they never
yeah,
execute
yeah.
it.
So execution is the key, and of course, how well you have thought through the contingency planning. And of course, today in the era of SDG goals, if your business is negatively impacting the environment, definitely scaling up will become a challenge. So what kind of social impact are you creating through your startup? I think definitely there should be some connection to that. You can't be environmentally negative business, because if you are, then scaling up will become a challenge. Then of course, coming to the competitive advantage, your positioning to the competitor, because sometimes, even startup says that, I don't have a competitor. So very difficult to say. They may not have a direct competitor, but they'll be indirect competitor. But for them to even able to see that, there is an indirect competitor, how should you really go about positioning your product versus the competition product? I think that requires a lot of detailing. Then of course, we in management language, we call it comparative strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. So I think
Yes.
if you map out the entire SWOT analysis of your venture, and you will understand what are the risks that are involved, and in each of the risks, that how you go about mitigating that risk, I think it's very, very important. And that mitigation of the risk comes from the founder and not from anybody else, right? While that may not be the best strategy, but then of course, certain basic level of organic thinking has to come from the founder. And of course, the how well are you planning to bridge the gap with competitors? Because competitors sometimes are moving faster than you. They may have extra money that they've raised, right, as you, but how you yet take advantage of their strategy and evolve yourself as a better strategy and executor, because strategy is one part, execution is the part. So I think all this is very important, that we kind of look at, and it's very difficult to know everything about all this in just 1 month. Maybe we probably do a program as an acceleration program, and from there we understand that who has a capacity and who doesn't have a capacity. So we work with people who have capacity to make them better. Who do not have a capacity, we work with them to bring that capacity. So I think we definitely see that there's an opportunity to work with each and every person we come across. But then sometimes you have to see that how well they are aligned with the overall goal of yours and theirs, right? So the convergence of your goal and their goal has to come in to be able to sign up. And I think this is a very crucial aspect. The third step is, I think, management depth, because you can develop a MVP, minimum viable product. You can develop a product which has a product market fit, but from MVP to PMF to building a LTV oriented product, which is
Right.
lifetime value oriented product. I think it really requires a deep thinking, not just on branding, not just on I would say technology. It requires 360-degree integration of all the thoughts to be able to scale the product and continuously reduce the customer acquisition cost and increase the overall lifetime value of the customer. So I think that kind of a depth, and of course the experience of the founders, the past experience of founders is very important. The dynamics of the team members working together is very important, and of course how each founder brings the strength. So there are times where we have seen all co-founders are coming from a technology background. That's not the best position to be in, right? Probably one could be from technology, the other could be from the technical skills, like for example domain skills. Third could be from regulatory perspective, who understand how to manage government. So I think this complementary skill set is a very, very important aspect. And the age of the founder, I'm not going to be talking much about it, but sometimes we have seen the younger founders, when they get more money, their ability to understand and execute things based on the advice is much higher, as compared to the old people, like who are probably 45 plus. They probably think that they just need money and they will execute it themselves, and they know how to execute it. Sometimes I think that is a judgmental call and may not be very productive call. Then of course, coming to the sales and marketing strategy, I think the timing to market a product or a service is very crucial. And
Right.
then second aspect is understanding of the market vis-a-vis product development placement, is very important. And of course, how are the potential customers, market segment are being pursued to buy your product. There are times where you have to give instant gratification to be able to convert that prospect into a customer. And then what kind of marketing vehicles are you using for customer retention, right? So I think this is all we have learned in through digital way of engaging, right? Whether it's a textile brand to a healthcare consumer brand, to any other form of product that we all are buying continuously. I think the last point, which is from a sales and marketing perspective, is very very crucial, is around digital strategy. So you, while you have presence physically, but you also need to think digitally, right? Which would also include about how well your website interfaces, how well you are doing campaigning, in terms of marketing vehicles, right? Like if you're in a business of transportation, then definitely you need to probably have some kind of a alignment with your vehicle, and advertisement should be placed in a vehicle, which, and you should have email campaigns, or you should have YouTube campaigns, whatever is probably your audience are looking forward to. And last bit is the financial viability of any plan, because if you don't have a financial viability, I think you will not even succeed after even 6 months, right? Even if you continue to spend money on that. So scalability, clientele, which is in B2B businesses, which is basically current and potential pipeline, and what kind of industry acceptance you have, what kind of certifications, awards, partnerships that you have, also defines that, how well you are being chased, how well you've been positioned within your industry to be able to take care of the product development and the product execution and the scale up. And of course, every business suffers from financial risk. There are 30 kinds of risks that everybody in the business suffers from, but I think financial risk is the much more important risk which needs to be mitigated. So if you do not have the right financial resources to start with, better not to start a project. So get everything in the right direction beforehand. And of course, sales, continuously working on the current projects, and of course projected projects is very very important, because you can't really build I think future based on existing clients only. You, of course, existing clients will give you only 10, 15, 20% of the value as you grow, but I think you need to constantly look at onboarding new clients, and that's where the relationship management concepts become very very important. So I think these are the some of the factors that we look at when we look at sort of evaluating companies based on demonstrated performance, and the potential is high. So the potential is something that is futuristic. So we need to see that you're backing a company which at least is solving a very big problem, and that's where you will also be able to ride back with
Right.
them. So I think this talks about the kind of a evolution, how angel investors or VCs look at from a perspective of angel investing.
Got it. Wow, that's a really long list, and I think you have covered each and every point in detail, which I think for our audience will be very helpful. Now, sir, I think we have covered most of the aspects, and I know we are very short on time. So while as we know that this we have like very less time, so why not? So there is one thing I ask to every person who come on this episode before going for the showdown, that what is the advice, because as I mentioned one thing, that I believe 99% of the problems in this world are going to be solved by entrepreneurs. So what is the advice for the aspiring entrepreneurs or for the investors, like your top 5 key takeaways?
So I think first and foremost is don't look at others, look at within your own idea, right? And validate that idea and build a solid team, because without solid team, there's no organization, there is no funding coming in. And do look for people with complementary skill set. And thirdly is about, network, because network is your net worth, right? And fourth is that, be open minded. Like, so there are times where there will be people who will criticize your idea, but at the end of the day, let's be very practical, that there'll be, you may meet 100 investors, probably you just need one yes from one person to be able to say yes, I will fund you. So I think don't feel disheartened, but do look at each and every critic that you get from these acquaintances, to reflect that how you can make your idea more robust every time that you get a feedback. So I think for us, entrepreneur, it's not about money. It's actually about also inputs, and that input is very valuable for you to pivot till you reach a perfect stage where one is always ready to say, yes, I'm going to fund this expansion, or I'm going to fund this venture. So I think there's enough money today in India. We're very, very fortunate, but the number of credible startups in this country are far, far less than actually number of investors. And I think this is what government has done, that so many investors base has come, but then credibility of a startup is still very low as far as overall business opportunity is concerned. So we can see that how many unicorns, how many decacorns, how many sunicorns are there. Probably not more than even 5% of the startups today are in that category. So 95% is still uncredible, which needs to be converted into credible. And I think that's the kind of acceleration model that we want to wish to work with as far as sectors of our interest are concerned, which is health tech. We want to be positioned as number one healthcare investor in the country. And of course, climate is very new area for us. Agri is a new area for us, but I'm sure we'll get there, because they are so closely linked to each other. So this is my guidance to each and every entrepreneur who listens to this podcast. And thanks, Anmol, for patiently waiting for me to be able to come on a call. And of course, I had enjoyed coffee meet with you at my place, with
Yeah,
your
that was
mom
a
and your
lovely
sister.
experience.
So it was very, very enlightening, but it's just that I had my travel plans, so I couldn't really accommodate anything before that. Thank you.
No, no, sir. It is totally understandable. And I really want to say thank you to you for joining on this episode today. And thank
Thank
you
you for
to
the
our
opportunity.
and thank you to our lovely audience who have been hearing us for the last 64 episode and now the 65th episode. Audience, I want you to comment down whatever your thoughts are. We will send, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. I will put, if you are okay, sir, I will put your LinkedIn profile link in the description so our audience can be in touch with you. Let's say if some startup wants to, so they can. And yeah, if you like this, do
And
like,
we must
do
write reference, Anmol.
yes.